realized that nobody was doing interesting luxury women's shoes. So I found a cobbler in the East End of London called Jimmy Choo. He'd make it, I'd photograph it, and I'd give him a credit in Vogue. So the name became known. What I quickly realized was Jimmy's talent was in making the shoes, but the creative vision was mine. People always ask me that question, like, was it the clever marketing? Yes, we were ahead of our time with marketing, but with a fashion brand, product has got to be desirable. People have to dream about that product, and then you can put clever marketing around it.
Hear the stories, learn the proven methods, and accelerate your growth and future through entrepreneurship. Welcome to the Foundr Podcast with Nathan Chan.
So the first question I ask everyone that comes on is, how did you get your job, aka how did you find yourself doing the work you're doing today?
Well, it's been a long career. So I've been in the fashion business for 30 years. The job I have today is because I went out and I raised money and founded my business. But that comes off a long history. This is the second company I founded. The first company I founded was called Jimmy Choo, which was another shoe company.
Awesome. And before that, you were at Vogue, right? British Vogue.
Yes. So I was at Vogue for 5 years. So I really, started my career just because I love fashion. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do in the fashion business. So when I was 18 years old, I didn't go to college. When I was 18 years old, I was working on a shop floor selling clothes. And from there, I went to working for a PR firm. And while I was at the PR firm, I realized that, I want to be on the other side of the fence. I want to be the fashion editor coming in, picking the product to photograph. So I applied for a job at Mirabella magazine, and I became the assistant to the fashion director. And unfortunately, that folded in the UK. But then I was headhunted to go and do the same thing at British Vogue. I started as the assistant to the fashion director at British Vogue, and then I became the accessories editor. Being the accessories editor is when I had that light bulb moment to start Jimmy Choo, because I was dealing with all the accessories and I could see that there was a gap in the market. So I founded Jimmy Choo in 96. I was 27 and built it for 16 years and then sold it.
Interesting. Now, I'd love to really delve deep on this origin story. Then I want to talk about everything that you're up to now with Tamara Mellon. So I'm curious, what was the gap in the market that you found?
So I realized that nobody was doing really interesting luxury women's shoes. It was about to happen. So mid-90s, this wave started of accessories exploding. Before that, it was all about the clothing and nobody cared about the accessories. So there was one shoe designer that all the editors were photographing, and he was the king of shoes. He was called Manolo Blahnik. Right? And as a fashion editor, I was tired of shooting the same brand all the time. So I found a cobbler in the East End of London called Jimmy Choo. And I would go to his studio, which was like a Dickensian studio in a disused garage in the East End of London, which 30 years ago was a very dangerous place to be. And it was probably like meatpacking 30 years ago. And I used to go to his studio and I'd get him to make things for shoots. I would say, okay, I'm doing a story and it's based on gladiators. Right? Can you make me a gladiator sandal? And I want you to put the studs here and I want it in metallic silver. And so he'd make it, I'd photograph it, and I'd give him a credit in Vogue. So that went on for 5 years. So the name became known. And so I thought, you know what? This is a great platform to start a company off, because the name is known, but you can't get the shoes unless you go to him and have him make he made handmade one-off pairs.
Wow, interesting. So it's purely bespoke.
Yes, before. So my idea was, I took the idea to him and I said, look, I will raise the funding. I will find factories in Italy to produce it. I will bring in wholesale accounts. I will do the PR and the marketing because of my background. And then when I got into it, what I quickly realized was Jimmy's talent was in making the shoes. Technically, he's making the shoes, but the creative vision was mine. When I was going to his studio, the creative vision for the shoes was mine. So I ended up designing the collection.
Ah, I see. So you were like still basically pretty hardcore product.
Yes.
Yep, got you.
Yeah.
And so you left Vogue and you started producing the shoes in Italy. You raised capital.
I was very tough. So like most young founders, without proof of idea or proof of product, it's very hard to raise money. I raised money through family. So the seed investment was very small. It was 150,000, which is probably like 300 grand today. Very small, but it's and then when there was proof that it was working, then I had private equity come into the company. But the difference between private equity and VC is private equity didn't actually invest in my company at that time. They bought shares and we grew the company from cash flow. But that's different to my business today. Today, I've raised money from venture capital, which have invested in the business.
Gotcha. Interesting. Oh, I'm excited to hear about what you're up to now. So what I'd love to do, though, is get a little bit of a background more around how you built this incredible brand with Jimmy Choo. Like, it is a household name, luxury brand that is no small feat.
So, people always ask me that question, like, well, was it the clever marketing? Was it? Yes, we were ahead of our time with marketing. We were clever, but with a fashion brand or with a product that's something that somebody wears, product's just got to be good. The product has got to be desirable. People have to dream about that product. And then you can put clever marketing around it. So with Jimmy Choo, I was the first British brand to go to the Oscars. I was the first shoe brand to go to the Oscars. And I set up a suite and I gave shoes to the actresses who were going to the awards. And what I did was, I didn't know what color their dress was going to be because everything was top secret, right? So I took everything in white satin and I hand dyed it in the bathtub in the hotel bathroom.
Wow.
They would pick their color. We were dying in the bathtub. I mean, we've had like crazy stories. Like Julianne Moore literally walked out in a pair of wet dyed shoes. And we were, there's part of success is a bit of luck too, right? We were on Sex and the City multiple times. Candice Bushnell, who, invented the show, came into my first Jimmy Choo store in Mottcombe Street in London, which was so tiny you could fit only probably 3 people in it. But she fell in love with the shoes, so she wrote them into the script. So part of, with luck that she came in.
Yeah, but luck is made, you think, or?
That's true. Luck can be made, and and sometimes, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Because it sounds like it's momentum that was built on top of each other. So when was that turning point? So obviously you said it was around $150,000 probably to do your first. Was that your first run, like your first MOQ?
Collection.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And so how many shoes did you get out of that, and how many styles did you do?
So we did about 60 styles.
Oh wow, 60 different styles.
Which we took to market.
Wow. And then how many shoes? So was it just one of each?
So then it was 60, and then we offered 3 colorways of each. So you could choose out of 3 colorways.
Wow. So that's actually quite a few SKUs.
Yeah, there was quite a lot of SKUs. But the thing is, when you're taking a collection to a wholesale market, it's edited, right? And you see which ones drop out. So you don't end up ordering all those or selling all those. And then you didn't end up ordering all those for the store either. It's sort of an editing process, which is very different to what I do today because I don't do any wholesale with my business today. So I pre-edit the collection.
Yeah, okay, interesting. And then did you launch the store straight away as well, your first store or your retail store, or when did you start that? Okay, you started with that.
Yeah, I did, which was a bold move because normally you won't see brands do that. You'll see brands take their product to market through wholesale first. But I opened up a Jimmy Choo store before we even took the collection to wholesale. But it was tiny. It was the size of a shoebox. And it wasn't on a main shopping street, but it was just adjacent to where all the luxury brands were. So you just had to like walk around the block. So it was a very low rent, very tiny, but it gave us a presence and it gave us a place to invite people to come to so they could feel the brand, they could see all the product displayed.
Yeah, there's something very special about that. You see a lot of e-commerce brands now, like direct to consumer, they also open stores as well to speak to customers, to get that constant feedback and that feel.
Well, that's what I've done with my new brand, Tamara Mellon. It was digitally born. But then after a couple of years, we decided to go offline and open retail stores. And in fact, what our retail store here in LA during the pandemic is doing unbelievably well. Again, it was the idea of just having a tiny little shoebox. Now we're calling them shoe closets. And we've designed them as if you're walking into a woman's shoe closet. So we've thought about the shoe shopping experience. So normally, if you go into a department store, they'll have half a pair displayed on a table. And you have to say, do you have that in my size? Then somebody disappears behind a curtain. They come back with a stack of boxes. You try it on, you're like, oh, I need half size up or half size down, or do you have another color? Or it's a long, painful process. So we designed a shoe closet where everything, every size is displayed, and it's displayed in pairs. And it repeats. The closet, the mini closet repeats. So anybody can walk in, go to their shoe size, pick a pair off the shelf, try it on, buy it, and leave. So we've cut a lot of the pain points out of shoe shopping.
So you sold the company. You partnered with a P&E, right? And then you eventually listed, yeah?
They did. They listed after I left. So I sold it to a company called Labelux. They listed it. Then it was taken off. And then Capri bought it. Capri are now the owners of it.
Got you. And I'm curious, what brought you to that decision to sell?
I'd been through 4 private equity deals. And anybody that's had experience with that knows that that's really hard to do. And how private equity came into the business in 2001, Jimmy decided he wanted to sell his shares. And for me, it was way too early. But he was like, we're good. I'm selling. So private equity bought 50% of the company. He had 50%, I had 50%. And the curse was really our success, because we were so successful that they wanted to sell every 2 to 3 years to show a return to their investors. They would look like heroes. They got a good return. But for a brand to go through a sale process every 2 to 3 years, first of all, it disrupts the whole management team. People get nervous they're going to lose their jobs. I have to deal with a new partner, a completely new board every 2 to 3 years. And that private equity company coming in wants the same results as the guy before. And so by the end of 10 years of doing that, I was just burnt out. And also I wanted to start a brand with a very, very different culture than what I'd been living.
Yeah, and I'm sure you learned a lot of lessons throughout that experience too, right?
An unbelievable amount of lessons.
Okay, awesome. So fast forward to now, let's talk about Tamara Mellon. How did that come about? Did you take a break after you sold the rest of your shares at Jimmy Choo? What happened?
Should have taken a longer break, but I was anxious to get started. So I had a non-compete. I wasn't allowed to work for a year. So during that time, I actually wrote a book. So I wrote a book called In My Shoes. And it's the story of building Jimmy Choo. If anyone's interested, it was, it was the story of those 16 years. And then since my non-compete ran out, I started this brand. And the purpose of this brand was really for me to build a company with a different culture and a different business model. So on the business model side, I saw the tsunami that was coming. It was about to hit the fashion business and how we all had to do things differently. And then on more of a personal level, I wanted more women in the C-suite. I wanted a female CEO. I wanted investors who were going to stay for the long term and were going to be a lot more supportive. I've found that dealing with VC, they've been a completely different animal to private equity. They've been unbelievably supported, added a lot of value. They've been in the weeds with us when we need them. They leave us alone when we don't want them. It's been a completely different experience.
Hey guys, I really hope you're feeling inspired from today's interview. The truth is, there's never been a better time to build an e-commerce business. And the best part is, you don't need to do it alone. That's where Foundr Plus comes in, which I'm really excited to share with you. If you are feeling stuck in your e-commerce business, lacking the confidence to really move forward, or you're worrying about making costly mistakes or how to drive your sales, Foundr Plus is here to support you. You get access to a customized learning pathway with proven frameworks from successful e-commerce founders for fast results, a supportive community. We have weekly live mentorship and workshops and exclusive savings on startup tools and 24/7 real human support. You can try Foundr Plus today for just $1 for 7 days so you can accelerate your business goals. Just visit foundr.com/start $trial or click the link in the description to claim your trial. All right, now let's jump back into the show. Yeah, amazing. So when did you start Tamara Mellon? It was 2013.
Yeah, so I've had two goes at this. So 2013, I started with the idea of doing something we call in the fashion industry, buy now, wear now, which means you deliver product in the right season, right? We deliver autumn, winter in the autumn, winter. We deliver spring, summer, where those seasons have got pushed in the, wrong. So the fashion industry now is trying to sell you bathing suits in February and winter coats in July, right? So, and then I tried to do something called drops as well. So every month having new items come in, which is a reason for customers to come back. So if they come in at the beginning of the season, they see everything, they don't really have a reason to come back. So if you layer in drops on top of that, it drives traffic back. My mistake the first time round, it was too early for wholesale. So I tried to put this business model through a traditional wholesale channel. So Neiman Marcus, Bergdorf's, Saks, they were not set up to buy this way or receive merchandise this way. So I had to put the company through a Chapter 11, reorganize it, pivot, which I did. I went out and then raised money from some amazing VC firms who really understood what I was trying to do. They understood the direct-to-consumer approach. They understood disrupting the normal fashion calendar. So it took a couple of iterations to get it right.
Yep. And you've got this new model now. Can you talk us through it?
So we are putting up the collection and we are doing something called pre-order. So we haven't bought any inventory up front because the problem with buying inventory up front is always a guessing game, no matter how good you are reading the data, because you're always looking back at what's sold, right? And you're guessing which shoe is going to sell and how much or how little it will sell. So rather than do that, we've decided to put everything up in pre-order, and our customers will tell us which ones we want. They'll place their order. Then we'll place the orders with the factory and deliver the shoes 6 weeks later. And also it's, we thought it's sustainable. We have less waste. We don't have shoes left over at the end of the season, which then we have to mark down. Look, I'm sitting here with you saying this today. In 6 months, I might be sitting with you saying, you know what, it didn't work. We're back to ordering products. But that's the great thing about being in control of your own business.
No, look, I think that's a pretty good model in the sense of minimizing risk and maximizing upside. It's like Kickstarter, right?
Yes.
In a way, your community is voting with their wallets, and that you will find out what works. It is different though to a lot of other fashion brands. Usually, it's all there on display.
I mean, right now we're seeing a lot of the big luxury brands trying to change. So they realized that the old system just didn't work. So if you, Gucci announced they're reducing their wholesale, distribution and trying to get more direct sales. They're also now looking at a drop model. They're going to be dropping product rather than releasing a full collection. Saint Laurent is doing the same thing. They're moving to an in-season drop model. Everybody now is testing and trying new things because the old way just didn't work. The customer has moved on, and the fashion industry now has to meet the customer where she's at, or try and figure out where she's at and how she wants to shop.
It's a little bit like how you started with your first batch of Jimmy Choo shoes. You had 60 different styles, 3 different colors, and then you put them out, and you didn't make them all, right? You put it out to market and wholesale, right? And then off you go. It's similar concept, but now you're doing it direct to consumer, to the public.
Exactly. Now the customers will tell it. The customers will edit for us instead of a buyer who's in between us.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And I'm curious, you mentioned something that was interesting. You said these kind of really small stores that you're setting up, these retail stores. How many do you have? And you said they're doing really well even during COVID. Why?
I think part is location. And I think part is also people are desperate for human connection. And I actually personally think retail shopping will come back after the pandemic because everybody's been locked up for so long. We're all in need of human connection, and it's one way, it's part entertainment, it's part human connection. So our store in LA is in a shopping mall that's right in the middle of a residential area. So people who are at home, sheltering at home, walk around the area and they see the store. So I think partly that is location, something for the residents to do. And the other store is in Soho, downtown in New York. We're doing a lot of curbside pickup, a lot of phone sales, and local outreach. And also what's interesting is we're seeing people shopping in 2 different ways. So it's either function, which is comfy slippers, stay at home, or it's total fantasy. Like they're buying crazy things like, where are you going in that right now? You're not going anywhere. But they're buying it because I think it's a little piece of hope for the future, or it's just a bit of joy when you open that box. It's something that looks beautiful, that brings joy into your life.
Yeah, that's interesting. You reminded me, one of my friends who, incredible e-commerce, she told me that lipstick sales always go gangbusters during a recession. Have you heard that?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I know that one because it's the entry price point is very low, and it's a little bit of joy. It makes you feel better. Put some color on your lips, and it's just an inexpensive way to feel better.
Interesting. So I'm curious, what all of the lessons, because you've been doing this for a long time, what are the lessons that you're taking from your journey that you're really bringing to Tamara Mellon?
You can't do it on your own. You need an incredible team, and it has to be a team when you're a startup of believers, absolute true believers in what you're doing, and people are excited to be on this mission with you. And that's the difficult thing about starting, because you need, some people are very good at startups and some people are very good at being in a company when it's established and helping grow it. And trying to straddle those two things. So obviously we want that scrappy mentality, that sort of, I'll roll up my sleeves and do anything. But we also want big thinkers who know, what our goals are, mission we're on, where we're trying to go. And you don't want people in your company who it's a job, right? You want someone in your company this is their career and they love your business, they love your brand.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. So how are you finding these people?
It's hard. We find them through word of mouth. We find them through LinkedIn. We find them through agencies, asking friends, asking our network. We use all different sources any way we can.
And when it comes to the marketing side of things, what are you doing that might be different, interesting, or that is working right now during this time? Because the rise of e-commerce and fashion is crazy right now. Anyone can open up a store with Shopify. You can make all this work. Like the market is far easier to get into compared to yourself 30 years ago, right?
Yes, you don't have any gatekeepers.
Correct.
Like who were the old days, the buyers said you can come in or you can't come in. So the entry to being in the market is much easier, but the hard thing is to break through the noise. How do you break through the noise? It's so expensive, right? Marketing on social media is, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, it's just so expensive. And how do you do something different that breaks when someone's scrolling? What makes them stop to look at you? So we try all different things. We're constantly iterating and trying new things. So we do fun videos. We're going to do some 3D images. We mix it up between still photography, video, personal, not personal. It's just, it's such a mix of everything. We do a little bit of traditional media buying, and performance marketing, Facebook, Instagram. But that's what you don't want your company to become dependent on. The greatest accolade for a brand is word of mouth. So when you finally get something that suddenly goes viral, word of mouth, that's what you really want.
So out of all the things that you've done on the marketing side to get cut through, to break through the noise, to get attention for the brand, what has been the most successful thing from your experience you've found thus far in the online world?
So people respond most to video. Still images, people don't really respond to anymore, but people love video. They love seeing activity, even if it's 5 seconds. So we're shifting most of what we're doing now to video.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I agree. I think video is so powerful to build trust too.
Yeah, there's more of an emotional connection.
Yeah, I agree. And are you using your personal brand to really help accelerate the growth of the brand too?
Yes, funny enough, just talking to the team about that this morning. So more of my person, more of me out front. So we're planning that. So I'm going to be doing more videos, just talking to the customer and posting it, talking about the new collection. What's the innovation? What's so exciting about our new innovation? Because we have some really cool innovation coming, which I'm excited to share with everyone. So so definitely just like more videos of me talking to the customers, doing more, just finding also women who are in my network that maybe are not in the fashion, but we have crossover customers, so we can share that customer base with each other. They could be, in the beauty business, they could be in the wellness sector, but we have similar customer bases, and then we can share our customers.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, look, so this is like, this would be such a big, difference for you compared to the Jimmy Choo days where you're looking for young, dynamic, performance marketers, social marketers, videographer, like graphic designers, that's the game now, right?
Yeah, the org chart is completely different to the org chart at Jimmy Choo. I mean, to be honest with you, I hired a female CEO who's a rock star. She built a company called Backcountry, which you probably heard of. It sells outdoor performance stuff, and she grew that business from 20 million in revenue to 500 million in revenue, all e-commerce, selling other people's things. So when I first sat in a meeting with her, I was like, oh, Jill, I have a whole new business language to learn. I don't even know what UX UI means. Okay. So I was on a massive learning curve. When I started this, I didn't know what I didn't know. and I've had to learn a lot. It's a very different.
Yeah, it is fierce and competitive, this online world, and it's ever moving so fast and you need to stay on top. So I'm curious though, in many ways, things haven't changed. Like the things that you were doing, like with the Oscars and influencer marketing or working with quote unquote ambassadors for your brand, that still works today, but in the online in the online world with your TikToks, your YouTubers, are you doing any of that?
Yes. So the market's shifted from trying to dress an actress on the red carpet, going to an event. I mean, that still exists. We do VIP dressing, but really it's shifted to influencers. So, and you have different types of influencers. So you have the type of influencer that has millions of followers, right? Which they're not always the best to work with because the people who follow them are probably just fans and they're not going to convert into customers for us. But people have a lower following and people are really engaged with them and they're following them because they like what they're wearing. They like the way they mix outfits. They like the brands that they talk about. Those are the ones that convert better. So it's finding, also you've got to find the influencer that's the right aesthetic for your brand, because it really depends on, are those followers going to like my brand? So it's got to be the right fit. You don't want to go out to any influencer who has the wrong aesthetic or the wrong message. They've got to be on brand,
Yeah, I agree. It comes down to the relationship that person has with their following and the depth of it.
Yeah, whether they're engaged.
Okay, so look, we'll work towards wrapping up. I'm mindful of your time, Tamara. So a couple of last questions. I think it's really smart how you shared around your CEO that you've put in place who had done it before. I think that is so critical when you're trying to build an incredible company of true worth and significance. I'd love to know just any final words of wisdom when it comes to building an incredible brand, because I think, I know you talked about product, but is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience? Because you have built an iconic household name brand, which I think is no easy feat.
Know your customer, right? And relate to your customer. Most people's purchases are emotional, right? And so you've got to have that emotional connection with your customer. That's what people base their decisions on. Majority of people base their decisions on their emotions. And I think that's important to remember.
I love it. Awesome. And where's the best place people can find out more about yourself and your work and your new brand?
So tamaramellon.com. You can follow us obviously on Instagram and Twitter. We have a TikTok. We haven't been good at it, but we're hopefully going to get better. But Instagram and tamaramellon.com is the best place to find us.
Amazing. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. This is a fantastic interview. I really enjoyed speaking with you.
I really enjoyed it too. Thank you.
If you loved this episode, make sure to check out my interview with Emma Greed on how solving a problem she was so passionate about led to the creation of Skims and Good American.
And so I do think it's so much of it starts with like addressing things that bother you, that you find, you've got to create a solution for, because, at the end of the day, you've got to be passionate enough and sometimes crazy enough to go round and round and round to actually solve a problem.